10 years ago, Lynn was 22. Fresh diploma, no job, no money. She moved back home, just for a while. That's what she told herself. Her mother had remarried a man named Than. He called himself a businessman. He wore expensive shirts and cheap authority. He liked things to stay where he put them. His words carried weight in every room. He owned the thermostat, the silence, and the people. Lynn became another object in his inventory. He smiled like he was doing them a favor. Every dinner was a lesson in obedience. Her mother always smiled too much. She spoke softly, as if afraid the air might crack. One night, Lynn needed her mother's car. It was late. The garage smelled of oil and concrete. A heavy toolbox blocked the driver's door. She pushed it a few inches. Metal scraped on the floor, loud as thunder. Then came the voice. Calm, controlled, poisonous. What did I tell you about touching my things? He stepped into the light. His face was calm, his eyes sharper than glass. I just need the car, she whispered. He walked closer. The air thickened. This house, he said, is mine. Everything in it is mine. The slap came faster than thought. Not brutal, precise. A sound more than a pain. Her cheek burned, her vision flashed white. Then she saw her mother. Standing in the doorway, hands on a dish towel. Still silent. No defense, no anger. Only the mask of peace she wore for years. Her silence struck harder than his hand. Lynn's breath trembled. Something inside her shifted. The room felt smaller, colder. He turned away, satisfied. Her mother whispered, "Don't argue." That was all. No comfort, no outrage. Just the rule of their house, peace at any cost. Lynn picked up her bag that night. A single box, a few clothes, her degree. She didn't look back. The headlights carved through the darkness. She saw her reflection in the rearview mirror. Eyes swollen, jaw clenched, skin still red. She whispered a promise. Never again. She would build something untouchable. A life where no one could claim ownership. A fortress of work, data, and control. No more pleading, no more waiting for apology. Her mother's silence became her enemy. Her stepfather's hand became her reason. Every hour she worked, every certificate she earned, was a brick in the wall between her and that house. The garage, the slap, the smell of gasoline. They became coordinates in her private map of pain. She built success like a weapon. Each achievement, another layer of armor. And under it all, the memory stayed sharp. Waiting. She didn't know when it would matter again. Only that one day it would. The email arrived just after sunrise. Subject line, credit anomaly, urgent review. Lynn blinked at the screen, her coffee untouched. Her name sat there, black on white. A note from the legal department. Routine, but flagged in red. She opened it and scrolled. A car loan. 4 years ago. Paid in full. Borrower, Lynn Tila. Address, her mother's old house. She froze. She never bought a car. Not then, not ever. Her pulse quickened, slow and mechanical. She reread the data twice. It wasn't identity theft by a stranger. It was too specific, too personal. Someone had used her credit, her name, her silence. The system didn't lie. It only reflected what people tried to hide. She pulled up the dealership's record. Waldron Motors. High-end vehicles, discreet financing. She opened the VIN file, cross-referenced ownership. The car had been transferred 6 months later. New owner, Than Logistics, LLC. Her stepfather's company. Her chest tightened, the memory of the slap echoing. He'd done it again. Not to her face this time, but through paper. Through signatures. She stared at the forged signature on the screen. The loops, the hesitation, the imitation of her L. A performance pretending to be her. Her own name turned against her. The document made her skin crawl. She looked up the car's model. A silver coupe, imported, low mileage. Market price, over $130,000. Too polished, too proud, just like him. She searched her company's restricted server, cross-referencing vendor data for the upcoming merger. A deal worth nearly $1 billion. Haviland Capital, the private equity firm financing it. And there, buried in transaction lists, a name she recognized too well. Than Logistics. Vendor ID active. Payment stream linked to Haviland Vendor Services. Invoices small enough to avoid audit triggers. Regular, clean, deceptive. She felt the world narrow to a single point. A car bought under her name. Paid off with money from the firm funding her company's merger. Her stepfather in the middle. A parasite feeding off two worlds. She leaned back in her chair, the city outside blurring. Her pulse steadied, cold and precise. The old rage had evolved into calculation. This wasn't random. It was systemic. He'd built his life on stolen trust. And now, he'd used hers to fund his lie. She opened a blank file. Title, Evidence Phase 1. She saved the loan, the title history, the vendor link. She named each piece like a soldier in formation. Her fingers stopped trembling. She wasn't a child in a garage anymore. She was the risk manager. Her job was to see threats before they appeared. And now, the threat had a name. A company and a license plate. She whispered at once, just to feel its weight. Than Logistics. It would all start there. Her mother still lived in the same house. Same curtains, same quiet street, same silence. Lynn hadn't been there in a decade. But she could picture every corner. The polished table, the smell of jasmine tea, and the man sitting in her chair. Than had aged into wealth, not wisdom. His company had grown just enough to look legitimate. He called himself self-made. But Lynn knew what that meant. He made everything from someone else's labor. Someone else's name. Her mother taught yoga now. Photos of her smiling filled the studio's website. Calm poses, white clothes, soft light. Peace was her profession. Denial was her religion. Breathe through discomfort, she told her students. She'd been doing that all her life. Even when her daughter was slapped in a garage. Even when truth cracked her voice. And never raised her tone, never took sides. Her silence was survival disguised as virtue. Lynn used to think it was weakness. Now she saw it was strategy. A pact between her and Than. He created the storms. She erased the evidence. A perfect duet of destruction and denial. Every month, Lynn sent her mother money. Automatic transfers. Enough to keep the peace, never enough for closure. Her mother's replies were always the same. Thank you, dear. Don't make a big deal of it. Peace bought by wire transfer. A quiet transaction between guilt and exhaustion. Now the dinner invitation meant something else. Not reunion. Not forgiveness. It was coordination. They wanted her silence again. The timing was too perfect. The merger deal was closing in days. Than needed to erase loose ends. She was a loose end. She imagined their plan. A friendly dinner. A little talk about family. A request, polite but firm. Let's move past the past. A handshake. A quiet death of truth. She smiled at the thought. They still believed she was the same girl. The one who flinched and left. But Lynn had learned to weaponize stillness. She spent 10 years studying risk. Now she could quantify revenge. She pulled out her phone and opened a new note. A checklist. Step 1, verify evidence chain. Step 2, secure legal counsel. Step 3, file claim on asset. Each line clean, surgical, inevitable. She thought of her mother's voice. Let's not make a big deal of it. For once, Lynn agreed. This wouldn't be a big deal. It would be devastatingly small. Just numbers. Just documents. Just signatures. The kind of quiet precision that ends empires. She looked at the time. 6:47 p.m. The dinner was at 8. Plenty of time. She stood up, straightened her jacket. This wasn't a family visit. It was a prelude to demolition. And her silence would be the fuse. Lynn spent the morning building her plan. 2 fronts. 2 battlefields. Legal and corporate. Emotion had no place here. Only structure, precision, and proof. She started with the paper trail. The forged loan from Waldron Motors. She contacted her lawyer, My Trim. A woman known for her quiet aggression. Mai didn't ask for backstory. She only said, "Send me everything." Within hours, Lynn had a folder. Contracts, signatures, payment records. The handwriting on the form was clear. Not hers. Too heavy, too sharp. She recognized it instantly. Than's confident pressure. The man never learned subtlety. The car's VIN was next. She traced it through the Department of Motor Vehicles. Initial owner, Lynn Tila. 6 months later, transferred to Than Logistics. Clean but too clean. A perfect fraud. Then came the money trail. Invoices for maintenance and detailing. Each payment issued by Haviland Vendor Services. A corporate subsidiary of the investor, funding the merger. A straight line of corruption disguised as commerce. Lynn labeled each document. Exhibit A through F. The map of his downfall. Next came the legal strike. Mai filed an emergency motion for asset seizure. Grounds, fraudulent acquisition and identity misuse. The paperwork was airtight. By noon, a judge had signed the writ. The car now belonged, legally, to Lynn. At least until the hearing. The law had spoken before dinner was served. But she wasn't done. Her second move would be quieter. Inside her company's compliance portal, she created an anonymous report. Subject, suspicious vendor payments. The data was simple. Small invoices, repetitive cycles, shared postal addresses. Than Logistics sat right in the center. She knew the audit system thresholds. $5,000 per invoice avoided escalation. He had calculated greed to stay invisible. She used his precision against him. The report recommended a payment freeze. Pending internal review. It would take exactly 47 minutes for the alert to reach the chief financial officer. She waited. In that silence, she thought of the garage again. The sound of metal scraping concrete. The same vibration lived in her pulse now. Slow, cold, certain. Every click of her keyboard was a strike. Every line of data, a confession. She saved her report, encrypted it, and hit send. The system logged the timestamp. 09:13 a.m. The machine began a turn. By the end of the day, the merger would tremble. By the end of the week, Than would drown in audits. Lynn leaned back, exhaled once. Revenge didn't need fire. It needed process. And she had mastered process. Her phone buzzed. A message from her mother. 8 p.m. dinner, don't be late. Lynn smiled faintly. She would be right on time. And for the first time in 10 years, she would bring the truth with her. The call came at 10:00 a.m. sharp. A calm voice from the executive floor. "Misla, the CFO would like to see you." Lynn closed her laptop, checked her reflection once. No fear, no excitement, just control. She took the elevator to the 54th floor. The air changed up there. Thinner, colder, deliberate. Behind glass walls, power moved without sound. The nameplate read, Ms. Khan, Chief Financial Officer. Inside, sunlight hit steel and glass. Khan stood by the window, silent, watching the city. She didn't turn when Lynn entered. You filed an anonymous compliance flag. Not a question. Lynn nodded. Yes, ma'am. Con turned slowly, eyes sharp as razors. Show me. Lynn handed her the tablet. A web of lines, connected nodes and numbers. Each vendor labeled, each invoice linked. In the center, Than Logistics. A quiet pattern disguised as noise. Con zoomed in, her finger steady. They keep invoices under the audit limit. Her voice carried both interest and suspicion. Yes, 5 vendors, 3 PO boxes, 1 operator. And that operator, she said, is your stepfather. The air thickened between them. Lynn didn't blink. That's correct. Con's tone didn't rise, but her mind was racing. You're implying our investor is tied to fraud. Lynn answered evenly. I'm showing that the numbers suggest it. Con sat down, folding her hands. If you're right, this merger collapses. If I'm wrong, I lose my job. Con studied her, measuring risk like currency. You understand the stakes. I do. I calculate them for a living. Silence stretched. The hum of air conditioning filled the room. Con exhaled slowly. All right, we'll act quietly. No leaks. Her decision was surgical. We freeze the vendor payments. We trace their IPs and see if they match. Lynn nodded once. It was more than permission. It was alliance. Con added, you stay silent until 9:59 tonight. After that, Lynn asked. After that, I flipped the switch. Their eyes met. For the first time, Lynn felt seen, not as a subordinate, but as a weapon. She closed the tablet and stood. Con's voice stopped her at the door. One more thing. Lynn turned. The car in those files, who owns it? Lynn didn't hesitate. According to the records, me. As of 10:01 this morning. Con blinked once, then nodded. You're precise, Misla. I like that. The meeting ended without ceremony. Lynn walked down the corridor of glass. The city glimmered below like circuitry. She could almost feel it. The shift in balance, the quiet beginning of collapse. The wheels were turning now. By nightfall, the empire that once slapped her would start to fracture from within. And all she had to do was wait. By morning, the courthouse smelled of paper and power. Lynn stood at the clerk's counter, file in hand. The writ was approved, stamped in blue ink. The car, a silver coupe, was now hers, legally. She signed the receipt, calm and exact. Her lawyer's message flashed on her phone. Deputy on site, proceed with collection. No drama, just procedure. She met the officer in the parking lot. He was large, slow, and indifferent. Another day, another seizure. They drove to the tower garage downtown. Concrete swallowed sound. Lights buzzed above rows of metal and wealth. Lynn spotted the car immediately. It gleamed like arrogance made solid. The deputy read the VIN aloud. She confirmed it. He nodded once. It's yours now, ma'am. Lynn pressed the key fob. A soft chirp echoed through the cold air. She opened the door and slid inside. Leather, chrome, expensive emptiness. The engine purred under her touch. For a moment, she stared at the dash. Everything he valued, condensed into one machine. Now it was evidence. Now it was hers. The deputy followed her to the impound lot. She parked between broken cars and police tape. Signed the transfer papers. Stamped, sealed, official. The trap was ready. The car would not stay there long. By afternoon, a private tow company arrived. Authorized by court order. Destination, Royal Steakhouse. The driver asked where exactly. Front entrance, Lynn said. Under the main light, angle it slightly left. He didn't question her. Money always erased curiosity. At 7:45 p.m., the silver coupe gleamed beneath golden lamps. A showpiece. A silent witness waiting for its cue. Lynn arrived by rideshare, 100 feet away. The valet circled the car, whistling low. She walked over, heels striking the pavement. "Nice ride," he said, impressed. She handed him the key. "Keep it right here all night." Her smile was calm, but her pulse steady as a clock. Inside, the restaurant hummed with quiet wealth. Dark wood, soft jazz, the language of money. The hostess led her to a back booth. Her mother sat there, composed but nervous. Than lounged beside her, one arm spread wide. He looked at Lynn the way a man looks at a mirror that dares to reflect something ugly. "Lynn," he said, pretending warmth. "Been too long." She slid into the seat opposite. "Yes," she said. 10 years. The waiter poured wine. Than boasted about contracts and investors. His voice carried pride and cheap cologne. When he mentioned Haviland, Lynn's lips curved faintly. "Big client," he said. "They know quality." She lifted her glass of water. "I'm sure they do." The clock on her wrist ticked steady. In 1 hour, everything he built would come undone. The car outside waited like a silver blade under light. And the night had only just begun. The lights dimmed at exactly 10:00 p.m. The wall behind them flickered to life. Numbers, invoices, signatures filled the screen. Than froze mid-sentence. His name glowed beside forged contracts. Money flowed in red lines from Haviland to his shell firms. The restaurant fell silent, forks suspended midair. Lynn didn't look at him. She watched her mother instead. Anne's face drained of calm. Her fingers trembled on the napkin. "Lynn, what is this?" she whispered. "The truth," Lynn said softly. Than stood, voice cracking. "Turn that off." No one moved. Outside, the silver coupe gleamed under the streetlight. A police cruiser slowed as if curious. Lynn's phone vibrated once. Email sent. Files dispatched to court, to press, to auditors. Than's empire began to dissolve in real time. And covered her face, silent tears running down. Lynn rose from her chair, slow and steady. "I stayed quiet for 10 years, she said. "Tonight, I finished listening." She placed her napkin down, precise as a signature. Then she walked out into the cool night air. Behind her, chaos bloomed. Ahead, only the hum of engines and freedom.